Biological Classification, Chapter 2, Class 11th, Cbse Ncert. In the previous video, we have discussed different kinds of classification given by Aristotle, R.H. Whittaker, and in this chapter, we will be discussing in detail Kingdom Monera. So this video is part 2 of chapter 2. So if you have not watched the outline of classification models given by different scientists, then please check my previous video. So let us discuss in this video Kingdom Monera. So in this chapter we have to discuss that bacteria, which are microscopic organisms, they are present everywhere. So we will be discussing about these microscopic organisms which are present in soil, which are also present in hot spring, desert, snow, deep ocean, and they are present in even the harsh conditions like a place which is extremely heated up. We will be then discussing different categories of bacteria based on their shapes. So bacteria vary in shape, so some of them are round, some of them are rod shaped, some of them are spiral, and others are comma shaped. After discussing the shape, we will be discussing how bacteria reproduce and what is the mode of nutrition in bacteria. So let us begin this chapter. But before this, let us also discuss very important basic concept behind different classifications. So R.H. Whittaker, as we have discussed in the previous video, R.H. Whittaker has classified living organisms into different types. So organisms, according to R.H. Whittaker, can be classified as prokaryotes. Prokaryotes means those which lack proper nucleus, but they do have cell wall. This is Kingdom Monera. Second kind of organisms include organisms which have a proper nucleus. That means nucleus has a nuclear membrane in it, and these organisms are part of eukaryotic system. Now these eukaryotes, that means those which have a proper nuclear system, they are of different types. So out of these, one which are single, solitary, but they do have well-defined nucleus, are part of Kingdom Protista. Second, there are also multicellular organisms. That means they are not single cell, but they are a group of hundreds or billions of cells. So these multicellular organisms which have proper nucleus can further be classified as those with cell wall and those without cell wall. So those with cell wall are typically the plants. So plants have this additional cell wall. And second category include those organisms which do not have any kind of cell wall, like animal cells. So animal cells lack cell wall. So animals, they do not have cell wall, and they are classified under Kingdom Animalia. Now again, those organisms which are possessing well organized nucleus, they are multicellular and they also have cell wall. They are of further two types depending on the mode of nutrition. So if they are deriving their nutrition from some other source, that means they are not able to make food on their own, then they are heterotrophic. For example, fungus. Fungus is heterotrophic and therefore the kingdom is fungi. And those organisms which are capable to synthesize food on their own are known as autotrophic organisms, like green plants. So this is the Kingdom Plantae, where we have all the green plants clubbed together. So let us revise. Kingdom Monera. Kingdom Monera include prokaryote, unicellular. There is no well-defined nucleus, but yes, cell wall is present. Kingdom Protista. They are unicellular with well-organized nucleus. Kingdom Fungus, they are heterotrophic, they possess cell wall, multicellular, and they also have well-defined nucleus. Kingdom Plantae are green plants which are autotrophic, they can make food on their own. Then they have cell wall, plus they are also multicellular with well-defined nucleus. Kingdom Animalia include all organisms without cell wall like us. So humans don't have cell wall. Then all organisms which are multicellular and with well-defined nucleus. So now in this chapter we will be discussing this group, that is a particular kingdom, Kingdom Monera. So Kingdom Monera, as we have seen just now, it includes bacteria. So there are a number of bacteria present around us. They are invisible, but they have all a similar characteristic, that is they are unicellular. They have cell wall as an outer layer, and they are prokaryotic. That means the nucleus is not very well defined. So Kingdom Monera include bacteria which are present almost everywhere. So hundreds of bacteria are present in handful of soil. They also live in extreme habitats such as hot spring, desert, snow, deep oceans, etc. So they are present everywhere. And they can be classified into various categories based on their shapes. Bacteria are of different shapes. So broadly we can say bacteria can be classified into three groups depending on their shapes. So first is cocci. Cocci are those which are round shape. Second category is bacillus. Bacillus bacteria are those which are rod shape. That means elongated, rod shape. Then we have spiral. Spiral bacteria, they are spiral in shape. So now let us see the first one, cocci. Cocci include those bacteria which are round. Now the circular or round bacteria can further be subdivided into different groups. For example, the very first is monococcus. So monococcus bacteria are round shape. Second is diplococcus. Diplococcus are also round shape, but they are present in pairs. Like we have here diplococci. Third is streptococcus. Streptococcus bacteria are those which are present in chain. So this is a long chain made up of multiple bacteria like Streptococcus pyrogenes. So when they are present, bacteria are present in chain, then we call them as Streptococcus. Next is Staphylococcus. Staphylococcus include those bacteria which are present in cluster. So there is a cluster together. For example, Staphylococcus aureus. And the last is Sarcini. Sarcini also include all round-shaped bacteria, but they are cubical. They are in the cubical packets, maybe a packet of 8, 64 or more. Next is Bacillus. Bacillus means those bacteria which are round-shaped. So round-shaped bacteria can also be solitary, they can be in pair, they can be in long chains. So if they are single and solitary, then we call them as single bacillus. If they are present in pairs, then we call them as diplobacillus. And if these bacteria which are rod-shaped, they are present in long chain, then we call them as streptobacillus. The third type is spiral. Spiral means spiral-shaped bacteria. So we have two types here, spirillum, like Helicobacter pyrrole, it's a spiral shape. And second category is comma. Comma means they are just comma shape, the comma, the punctuation mark that we use in English language. So for example, Vibrio. So the shape is just like a comma. So we can just say that bacteria are of different shape, cocci which are round, bacilli that which are bacillus are those which are rod shape, and spiral are those which are of spiral shape. So though bacterial structure is very simple, they are very complex in behavior. So these bacteria, they are very complex in behavior because they are actually using, if we consider bacteria, they are a group. So they are a group which show extensive metabolic diversity. So some bacteria are autotrophic, that means they have ability to synthesize food on their own. And there may be bacteria which are photosynthetic autotrophic or chemosynthetic autotrophic. So within autotroph we have different categories. So some of them they can synthesize food on their own, others use chemicals to synthesize food on their own. Apart from this category of autotrophic, we also have heterotrophic bacteria. Heterotrophic bacteria means those which cannot synthesize food on their own. So the mode of nutrition is very different. Apart from this, let us also see different kind of bacteria that exist on our planet. So broadly we can say that bacteria are archaebacteria and eubacteria. Archaebacteria are primitive type of bacteria which are still present in salty areas, hot springs. So let us quickly see what is the main characteristics of archaebacteria. So archaebacteria are those bacteria which are special since they live in some of the most harsh conditions. Harsh conditions like salty areas. So sometimes when they are present in salty areas, they are also known as halophiles. Apart from this, some of the bacteria are present in hot springs, very hot temperature. That means they are also called as thermoacidophiles. So second category is thermoacidophiles. And many bacteria are present in marshy areas. Those bacteria are known as methanogens. So we have third category, that is methanogens. So archaebacteria, they are very different. So these bacteria have different kind of cell wall structure and they are known to be present in extreme conditions. So halophiles, they are present in salty areas. Thermoacidophiles, they are present in hot springs. We also have methanogens which are present in marshy areas. And methogen is also the category of archaebacteria which are present in ruminant animals like cows and buffaloes. And they are responsible for the production of methane gas from the dung of these animals. So these are the broad categories of archaebacteria. But we also have another kind of bacteria which are known as eubacteria. So eubacteria are the true bacteria and they can be classified into different category. So we have autotrophic eubacteria and heterotrophic eubacteria. So autotrophic eubacteria are of two types, photoautotrophs and chemoautotrophs. So let us see what is the eubacteria or the true bacteria. So the eubacteria, they are organisms which are present in different locations, and these microscopic organisms, they are known for a rigid cell wall, and they also have flagellum in case they are motile. Now eubacteria or the true bacteria, they are of different types. So we have autotrophic in this categories like cyanobacteria. So these bacteria, cyanobacteria, are photosynthetic autotrophs. So they have chlorophyll A pigment just like green plant and they can make their food on their own. So this is the diagram of eubacteria here. This is the diagram of blue-green algae which is also known as cyanobacteria and placed under kingdom Monera. So there is a gelatinous sheath or mucilaginous sheath here as you can see. So this mucilaginous sheath protect the cells, and this bacteria, that means cyanobacteria, has also one little problem or drawback. So sometimes when they proliferate in number, they may even create pollution of water bodies. So they grow in large amount and they create pollution which is also known as algal bloom. Apart from this, there are second category of bacteria which is known as chemosynthetic autotrophic bacteria. So chemosynthetic autotrophic bacteria, they use certain inorganic substances to make their food. Now this inorganic substance could be anything, maybe nitrate, nitrite, ammonia or any other thing. The next kind of bacteria are heterotrophic bacteria. So they are basically uh, the decomposers, and they are very helpful because they are helpful in making curd from milk. So they are also used economically in different activities like in production of antibiotics. They fix nitrogen in legumes. So the heterotrophic bacteria play different role. So let us quickly see. So here we have learned that bacteria on the basis of nutrition can be classified into two groups. So eubacteria, which are the true bacteria which have well defined cell wall, they are of two types. So what two types? So let us quickly see. So we have autotrophs. Autotrophs, one category photosynthetic autotroph and second category chemosynthetic autotroph. So, but both are autotrophs. Second category, so here we have first category and the second category is heterotrophs. Heterotroph means which cannot synthesize food on their own. So this is the bacterial cell, and bacterial cells has a true cell wall here. So all the eubacteria have true cell wall. Now bacteria require a structure for its motility. So this structure which is used for motility is known as flagella. Now arrangement of flagella is known as flagellation. So flagellation is arrangement of flagella. Now on the basis of arrangement we can say that there are different types. So if flagella is totally absent, it's not there, then it is the category of you can say atrichous bacteria. Second is monotrichous. Monotrichous means that flagella is present, but it is only one and it is present at the end of bacteria, like Pseudomonas. So in Pseudomonas, flagella is present only at one end. It is single. So this is the flagella which is present here. The next category is Lophotrichous. So if they are present, that means flagella is present in bundle on both the sides of bacteria, then we call it as Lophotrichous, like in this case. Third is Cephalotrichous. Cephalotrichous means bunch of flagella at one end. So there are lot of bacteria, lot of flagella, but they are only on one end, like in Pseudomonas. Amphitrichous means the next category, that is amphitrichous, means flagella are present on both poles. So they are present on both the poles. On one side there is a single flagella, on the other side also there is a single flagella. So they are amphitrichous. The next category is peritrichous. Peritrichous means flagella is found on whole body of bacteria. So everywhere there is a flagella on the surface of the bacterial body. So these are different categories based on flagella shape. Now see, these flagella, they help in the movement of bacteria, and therefore they are very important, and they play a key role in bacterial body. So flagella actually consists of three parts. There is a filament, there is a hook, and a basal body. So if we see carefully, this is the flagella. So here we have flagella, and flagella can be divided into three parts: filament, hook, and basal body. So this is the structure which can be considered as filament. Here we have the hook, and the basal body is the part which is attached So this is the basal body. Uh, okay. So in all bacteria, there is a very unique thing. That means the flagella of all the bacteria, it is helically present around the hollow core. So in bacteria, we find 1 plus 0 arrangement of microtubules. There is, in this, we don't find 9 plus 2 arrangement. So if as we move in the higher groups, for example, if we see the flagella of algae or other higher group of plants, in those plants we will find there is 9 plus 2 arrangements. But in bacteria, we have only 1 plus 0 arrangement of microtubules. Second thing to be noted here is that in gram-negative bacteria, the basal body, that means this part. So the basal body, that is this area, this part. Okay, so in basal body of gram-negative, there are 4 rings. But in gram-positive, there are 2 rings. Another feature is that in Monera kingdom, flagella is basically different in movement. So it rotates around the base like a propeller, which is not so in the case of higher groups. So in higher groups, it beats back and forth. But here it is just rotating around the base like a propeller. So let us just quickly see. So it rotates like a propeller as this. Okay. So flagella is for the movement. Now let us see the internal structure of bacteria. So internal structure of bacteria is again very fascinating. So we'll see the first layer, that is the capsule. The outermost layer of bacteria is the capsule. So capsule is thick, viscous jelly-like layer, and it is made up of gelatin. It is made up of gum or mucilage. So it is the outermost layer, and this is really important for protection. So if there is capsule, that itself indicate the bacteria is very tolerant, it is resistant, it has lot of virulency. So that means capsule in a way help in protection of bacteria against any kind of desiccation, and therefore bacteria can survive for a long period of time. So it protect bacteria from phagocytosis. Nobody can consume bacteria in such case if capsule is present. So it's like a protective layer. Now the next layer is the cell wall. Cell wall is again very important in bacteria because cell wall is the characteristic feature of bacteria or Monera kingdom. So cell wall is present in bacteria and in plants, but it's not present in animals. Now these cell wall is basically made up of peptidoglycan or mucopeptide or murin. So this is the chemical present in the cell wall of bacteria. Now if we consider peptidoglycan means peptides are present in it, and glycan means glycan, carbohydrate is also present in it. So peptides are basically made up of 4 amino acids. So L-alanine, L-lysine, D-glutamic acid and D-alanine are present in peptide. Whereas glycan means N-acetylglucosamine and acetylmuramic acid is present. So peptidoglycan means peptide and glycan are the main component in the cell wall structure. Peptide include 4 amino acid, L-alanine, L-lysine, L-glutamic acid and D-alanine, whereas glycan part of the cell wall include N-acetylglucosamine and N-acetylmuramic acid. Another thing that is quite interesting is that gram-positive bacteria. So we have different types of bacteria, gram-positive and gram-negative. But these gram-positive bacteria have teichoic acid. So this teichoic acid bind easily with magnesium and protect bacteria from thermal injury. So if you can see this diagram, here is the teichoic acid. So teichoic acid, which is present in the bacteria, it's very important, and it is the uh, compound present in only gram-positive kind of bacteria. So teichoic acid can easily bind with magnesium and protect bacteria from thermal injury. That means gram-positive bacteria don't undergo any kind of thermal injury. They are more protective in nature. Apart from this, teichoic acid also regulate the activity of autolysin enzyme, and therefore prevent lysis or dissolution or damage to the cell wall. So it's kind of a protective layer in gram-positive bacteria. Teichoic acid is actually it actually contains a negative charge phosphate group, and therefore it controls the movement of cations. Now all bacteria, they also have porins. So this is the porin. So porin is the structure through which small molecules can diffuse inside the bacteria. So this is a protein octamer through which small molecules can easily diffuse. So cell wall is one of the most important structure of bacteria. The next internal structure that we will discuss now is the plasma membrane. So plasma membrane is actually the site of respiration. So it is the place where different kind of metabolic activities with respect to respiration take place. So plasma membrane is basically a lipoproteinaceous membrane. Now this lipoproteinaceous membrane is especially important for respiration. Therefore, the respiratory enzymes are located in plasma membrane. Another thing is that the sterols are the chemicals which are, for example, cholesterol. These sterols are completely absent in bacterial plasma membrane. Apart from this, the bacteria membrane has pentacyclic sterols like molecules which are known as hopanoids. So in short, we can say plasma membrane is the site for respiration. It is lipoproteinaceous membrane. It lacks sterols, but yes, hopanoids are present. So hopanoids are important because they stabilize bacterial membrane. So this is the plasma membrane that we have. Okay, now the next layer is mesosome. Actually, mesosomes are part of plasma membrane only. This is basically enfolding in the plasma membrane. So mesosomes are enfolding of cell membrane. These were discovered by Fritz James, and they are commonly present in gram-positive bacteria. So these mesosomes, they are also known as peripheral body or chondroid, and mesosomes, they help in DNA replication, they help in septum formation. So when the bacteria replicate, a septum or partition is formed that is also created by mesosomes, and these mesosomes also help in the formation of cell wall. So here we have the mesosome. So mesosome include this enfolding present in the membrane, plasma membrane of bacteria. Now, when we are talking about plasma membrane and mesosomes, they are both playing very important role in respiration. Now, another thing to be noted here is that there are different kinds of bacteria. So, one is obligate aerobe. Now, obligate, you can remember like this, only aerobes. Obligate means only aerobes. That means they cannot survive, they can only survive in presence of oxygen. They cannot survive, they will die if the oxygen is absent. So, obligate aerobe, that means those which can survive only in presence of oxygen. They cannot survive under anaerobic conditions. For example, Bacillus subtilis. Second category of bacteria is obligate anaerobe. Obligate anaerobe means only anaerobes. That means they can survive only in absence of oxygen. So they respire and grow only in absence of oxygen. So if there is availability of oxygen, then they will die. So for example, Clostridium botulinicum, methanogens, halophiles. Third is facultative anaerobes. So facultative anaerobes means sometimes anaerobes, you can remember. Facultative, like sometimes anaerobes. So they are generally aerobic, but in absence of oxygen, they may become anaerobic. For example, Clostridium terrani and thermoacidophiles. The last is facultative aerobes. Again, use the word sometimes. Sometimes aerobes means they are normally not aerobes, but sometimes they can be aerobe. So normally they are anaerobic, but when oxygen is available, then becomes aerobic. For example, chlorobium. Chlorobium is facultative aerobes. Now the next internal structure is nucleus. Nucleus is actually lacking in nuclear membrane, and therefore in bacteria we call the nucleus as nucleoid. So in bacteria, nucleoid is there is a lack of nuclear membrane, and so it is known as nucleoid or genophore or incipient nucleus. So here we find that DNA is double-stranded and circular. Histone proteins are totally absent. So these are the categories of nucleoid. The next important organelle of bacteria is the ribosome. So ribosomes are important because they help in protein synthesis. Now in bacteria we find ribosomes, 70S type of ribosome, which can be further divided into two units, 50 and 30S. The next organelle is plasmid. Plasmid is one of the most important organelle. So the plasmid, as you can see here, this plasmid layer, this is the plasmid. So plasmid is basically extra chromosomal or extra nuclear DNA. So it is a DNA, but it is extra to what is there in nucleoid. So additional DNA. It is smaller than the main DNA and contain gene of the replication. So it is double-stranded and circular. It was discovered by Lederberg. We have different types of plasmid. Say for example F factor or sex factor. So it includes maleness in bacteria. Then we have R factor, which provide resistance to bacteria against the drug. Col factor, it produces coalescence, which are homolytic chemicals produced by bacteria and which kill other bacteria. So we have F factor, male factor, R factor, resistance factor, Col factor, that are chemical. They are the plasmids which produce certain chemicals by which even the other bacteria may die. Then we also have degradative bacteria. Degradative bacteria are those which have certain enzyme and they can degrade the complex organic matter into the simpler ones. Like for example, Pseudomonas pudita was discovered by Anand Chakravarti and it helps in degrading the oil spill. Now plasmid, they also have some plasmids are also known as episomes. Now what are these episomes? These plasmids are the episomes when plasmid integrate itself with the main chromosome. So if it joins the main chromosome or become part of nucleoid, then we can call it as episome. Okay. So episome was discovered by Jacob and Woolman. The next organelle is pili-fimbriae. So pili-fimbriae, they are very important. So pili-fimbriae, they are important because these pili or fimbriae, they are important because they help in attachment. Attachment in the sense that sometimes whenever these bacteria are reproducing, one way is conjugation. So they help in reproduction of bacteria to certain extent. So let us see what is pili-fimbriae. So pili word was given by Brinton. Term fimbriae was given by Duguid, and pili are microscopic structures They are here filaments like structure present on cell wall of some gram-negative bacteria. So these pili are plasmid coded. That means the gene is coded by the plasmid and they are present peritrichously. That means all on the surface of bacteria you will find pili fimbriae and they are composed of pili protein. Now these help in the attachment to the surface and they also help in the formation of conjugation tube. So pili fimbriae, they are very important. The next part is cytoplasm. Now as we know, cytoplasm is the cytoplasm means entire content of cell, bacterial cell. So it may contain number of things. So let us see what the cytoplasm include. So cytoplasm contain nuclear area where the nucleus is present. It also contain ribosome. It contain chromatophore. It contain volatile granules and PHB granule. So chromatophores, they are the chloroplast. So in bacteria, chloroplast or plasmids are absent. So where is the pigment? So the pigment, that means bacteriochlorophyll pigment is present in bacteria, bacterioverdin pigment is present in bacteria, and both these pigments are present in the structure which is known as chromatophore. So chromatophores are nothing but they are circular thylakoids. So these circular thylakoids or chromatophores, they are present in the cytoplasm. The next thing that is present in cytoplasm is volutin granule. Volutin granule contain metaphosphates, that means reserve of phosphate, and they were found first in Azospirillum volutins. So these are also known as volutin granule. The third category is PHB granule, that means polybeta hydroxybutyrate. So polybeta hydroxybutyrates, they are very similar to lipids, but now they play very important role in degrading the plastics. So biodegradable plastics, which is very important and been highlighted by government body, these biodegradable plastics are created from the PHB granule of bacteria. The next thing which is present in cytoplasm is reserve food. So reserve food is actually glycogen in bacteria. So these are the things present in cytoplasm. So cytoplasm, which is the matrix of matrix which include number of substances inside bacteria, contain nuclear area, ribosome, chromatophore, volutin granule and PHB granule. So chromatophore means the pigment, bacteriochlorophyll and bacterioverdin present in thylakoid structure. These thylakoid structures are chromatophores. Volutin granule means metaphosphate compounds. These are present in bacteria and especially the cytoplasm of bacteria. It was discovered by Azospirillum volutins. Next is PHB granule. PHB granule include plastic, the lipid-like substance which are used to prepare biodegradable plastic. And reserve food material of bacteria is glycogen. Now bacteria, if we want to analyze them, how we will observe the structure, how we will get to know the size of bacteria. So that is done through techniques which are known as staining techniques. Now all the stains which are present, these stains, they have either the negative ions or the positive ions. So basic dyes are rich in positive ions, whereas acidic dyes are rich in negative ions. Now there are different staining techniques. So let us see what are the staining techniques. So first is the simple stain. In simple stain, what we do, we basically detect the shape, arrangement and size of bacteria. Simple stain include methylene blue, crystal violet. So here the bacteria appears like this. So we are easily able to make out the size, arrangement, shape if we just add a drop of crystal violet on any particular substance where there is bacteria. Second type of stain is the negative stain. So negative stains are very interesting because we know the pH at pH bacterial surface is negatively charged. So at a normal pH we find that they are negatively charged. So if we add acidic dye, which are also negative, as we have seen acidic dyes are negatively charged. So will there be any interaction? No. So there won't be any interaction between the bacterial surface, which is also negative. Acidic dyes are also negative. So in this case, that means when we stain it through negative stains, background takes the stain only. Bacteria remain colorless. So for example, eosine is the dye, nigrosine, Indian ink, all these stains can be used. All of them are negatively charged and therefore we don't find any color on bacteria. So colorless bacteria are visible and they themselves are important to analyze the shape. So let us see how these negative stains look like. So they appears like this. So colorless bacteria are seen on the background with a black background. So these are negative stain. The third type is differential staining. So if you want to go into the detailed structure, internal structure of bacteria, then we can use the gram staining technique. So let us see what the gram staining technique is. So in gram staining, some of the bacteria will appear purple and others will appear like red or pink. So what is this gram staining? So gram staining technique help us to differentiate between bacterias, those bacteria which are gram positive and gram negative. So what is this gram negative or gram positive or in general gram staining technique? So let us see. So the procedure is that we need to prepare a dried smear of bacteria. So let us take a on any particular slide, we can just put a smear of bacteria. Now then we add crystal violet stain. So this is a primary stain and it is purple in color. Then we wash it and then later dip it in iodine solution. So why we are adding iodine? Because we want to fix this crystal violet stain. So it acts as a mordant and help in fixing primary stain. After this we wash it with 90% alcohol. 90% alcohol means that we are adding alcohol in order to clean the stain. Now after this, if the bacteria still retain this purple color of crystal violet, then they are known as gram positive. And why they are retaining the purple color? Because in gram positive bacteria, cell wall has less lipid. Therefore, even after the wash with alcohol, the stain will retain. But then there are those which lose the stain. So if they lose the stain, the reason is that they have more lipid. And these bacteria are known as gram negative. So here we have gram positive and on the other side gram negative. So if you want to visualize gram negative, we need to further add some dye, maybe pink dye to see it. There are another kind of bacteria. These are known as acid fast bacteria. Acid fast bacteria are those which have a covering of wax or fat in their surface. So in this bacteria, staining is very difficult. That means bacteria cannot be stained by simple technique. So if they are stained, it is difficult to destain them. These bacteria are known as acid fast bacteria. Acid fast bacteria are only stained by a particular technique that is known as Zeil-Nielsen technique. So we have a stain, a particular stain which can be used in Zeil-Nielsen technique. These stains are acid fast stains. The example of these kind of bacteria include Mycobacterium tuberculosis. And here we have a picture of acid fast bacteria. So acid fast bacteria, they are difficult to stain and once they are stained, it's difficult to destain them. So we use Zeil-Nielsen technique to stain them in order to identify. For example, Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Now there are a number of differences between gram positive and gram negative bacteria. The first one is cell wall. So cell wall is simple, monolayered and straight in gram positive. It contains lot of murin. Whereas in gram negative, it is complex, bilayered and wavy. Outer layer is made up of lipopolysaccharide and inner is made up of murin. Now when we consider cell wall, few amino acids are present in gram positive, whereas many amino acids are present here in gram negative. Lipid content is less as we have seen and therefore it was able to retain the purple color. So gram positive have less lipid, gram negative have high lipid, 22%. Teichoic acid is present only in gram-positive. It is completely absent in gram-negative. Salicylic acid is absent here, whereas it is present in gram-negative. Sulfur-containing amino acids are also absent here in case of gram-positive. Sulfur-containing amino acids are present in gram-negative. Exotoxin are present in gram-positive. That means they release toxin outside their cell. Whereas endotoxins are produced in gram-negative. That means gram-negative synthesize toxin within their cell. Ratio of RNA and DNA is 8:1, whereas ratio of RNA and DNA in gram-negative is 1:1. So, gram-positive are susceptible to this antibiotic, that is penicillin, whereas gram-negative are less susceptible to penicillin. So, if penicillin doesn't work for gram-positive, then there are other antibiotics to which it is less susceptible. So the antibiotics like streptomycin, tetracycline will not work on gram-positive, whereas gram-negative is susceptible to all other antibiotics except penicillin. Then few pathogenic bacteria belong to this group, and majority of pathogenic bacteria which cause hazardous diseases, they are in the group gram-negative. So example, Diplococcus, Staphylococcus and Clostridium, whereas gram-negative include E. coli, Vibrio cholerae, Pseudomonas and Rhizobium. Now let us see the reproduction in bacteria. So bacteria can reproduce by three ways. First, by vegetative reproduction. For example, binary fission, fragmentation, budding. Asexual reproduction, it includes conidia and endospore. Sexual reproduction, it includes transformation, transduction and conjugation. So let us see the first type. So vegetative reproduction doesn't involve any kind of mixing of genes. It basically means a simple cell splits into two. So binary fission basically takes place under the favorable conditions. It is a common method of reproduction in bacteria. So a cell divides simply by mitosis and septum is formed in between and they just divide. Apart from this, the second is fragmentation. So when a bacteria breaks into small fragment, we call it as fragmentation. It is common in actinomycetes. Budding. Budding means a small portion of bacteria separates out into a new cell. Example, actinomycetes. Apart from vegetative, we do have asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction can be of following type. First, by conidia. So for example, small buds or conidias are formed in Streptomyces and Rhodomycelium. These buds, they separate and this is a kind of asexual reproduction. Another interesting is endospore. So in bacteria, we find that in a number of bacteria, there are endospores. Endospores, they are highly resistant resting spore which are produced within the cell of bacteria. Normally, one endospore is formed in one cell. So let us consider this diagram. So in this diagram, as you can see here, this is the structure of a bacteria and inside we have, this is the structure of bacterial endospore. So one endospore is formed in entire bacterial cell and it has a cortex, it has a core area, then spore coat and exosporium. So its wall contain calcium and diplocolinic acid. So these two compound, that is calcium and diplocolinic acid, makes endospore quite resistant. These endospores are formed under unfavorable condition and help them in penetration. Now we can easily detect these endospore using Schaeffer-Fulton stain. For example, we can detect Clostridium, Bacillus and Anthracis using this stain, that is Schaeffer-Fuller stain. The next kind of reproduction is sexual. So sexual reproduction is of different types in bacteria. First, transformation, second, transduction and third, conjugation. So let us see first. So let us see another type of sexual reproduction. So in this we are studying the first, that means transformation. So if we study transformation, so we can simply say transformation is a process by which foreign DNA is introduced into a cell through environment. That means any particular bacterial DNA may move from one cell into another cell in any medium. So this was observed by Griffith in the bacteria that is known as Diplococcus pneumoniae or pneumococcus. Now in this bacteria, Griffith observed that there were two strains. So the first strain is S3, which is a smooth and capsulated virulent strain. That means it was very deadly strain, whereas R2 is the rough, non-capsulated and avirulent strain. That means it was not effective. Avirulent means that it was not creating any problem, it was not deadly. So let us see the experiment conducted by Griffith. So in the first experiment which was conducted by Griffith, he used S strain. S strain means virulent strain. So immediately when this strain was added, then the bacteria was virulent and therefore the mouse was dead. So mouse was dead immediately. But let us see another experiment of Griffith. So in another experiment of Griffith, Griffith used not the S strain, but he used R strain. So when R strain is added, then this R strain is the non-virulent strain and therefore it does not create any harm to the mouse. Now he observed another experiment that when this S strain is heated, okay, so when this S strain is heated and then it is added to the mice, then in that case there is no effect on the mice. So that means heat basically kill or make that virulency of S strain no more active. So the mouse is still alive. But in another case he observed that when the mice was injected with R strain and dead S strain, then the mice was again dead. Can you figure out the reason? R strain is avirulent, it is not at all problematic. Dead S strain is also not problematic because mouse was alive initially. So why then in this case mouse was dead? So the reason was discovered later on by Avery, MacLeod and McCarthy. So they observed that DNA of heat-killed S3 bacterium has entered into R2 strain. Yes, so this is transformation. So R2 strain has become transformed into S3 and therefore it has caused disease and led to the death of rat. So transformation is basically a process in which the cell or bacterial DNA gets transformed or move into a new bacterial cell through the environment. Second type of sexual reproduction is transduction. So what is transduction? So transduction is a process in which there is transfer of genetic material from one bacterial cell to another, but it takes place through bacteriophage. So bacteriophage are those which attack bacterial cells. So these bacteriophage are viruses which have ability to attack bacterial cell. So now when they attack bacterial cell, so let us see this diagram. So here this is the bacteriophage and it is about to attack the bacterial cell. So as soon as it sits on the bacteria, it releases its genetic material. So this is the genetic material released by this bacteriophage. This genetic material sometimes it will multiply and it will form bacteriophage of its own kind, and sometimes it may also attach the bacterial DNA. So let us see the next diagram. So here in the next diagram, this Okay, so here we have this diagram. So here you can see this bacteriophage, which is a newly formed bacteriophage inside bacterial cell. So this bacteriophage has actually the bacterial DNA. There will be few which will not have bacterial DNA. They will be having original bacteriophage DNA. But there is always a possibility that bacterial DNA may enter into these bacteriophage. So for example, this is the new progeny or new bacteriophage formed after replication, and it has a bacterial DNA, the blue colored DNA. Then you can see this bacteriophage. It is a normal bacteriophage which has the original DNA of its own parent bacteriophage. So there will be number of bacteriophage forms. Some will be having bacterial DNA, others will be having bacteriophage or viral DNA. So this process is known as transduction, and it was discovered by Zinder and Lederberg in Salmonella typhi. So sexual reproduction of bacteria can also take place through transduction. Another method is conjugation. So conjugation is basically a method in which there is a transfer of genetic material from one bacterial cell to another by the conjugation tube, and this process is known as conjugation. This was discovered by Leder and Tatum in E. coli. So let us see how this conjugation take place. So in conjugation we have this as F factor. So this is the extra chromosomal plasmid, which is also known as F factor. Now these are F factor, and this is the original DNA of the bacteria. So this is the original DNA. So those bacteria which have this additional F factor, they are known as F plus. So this is basically a F plus cell. Now this F plus cell will bind with F minus. F minus means those which do not have plasmid, extra chromosomal plasmid, that is F factor. So they bind with the help of a connection formed through pili. So pili are present on the surface of bacteria. They form this connection, and through this connection the extra chromosomal plasmid or F factor enters into the new cell. So as soon as this new type of F factor is formed in the originally F minus kind of bacteria, the new bacteria will be called as F plus. So these is also F plus, and this original one also F plus. So both the bacterial cell have become F plus. So a part of gene has entered in the form of extra chromosomal plasmid or DNA. So this is the method of conjugation, and conjugation tubes, the connections are formed with the help of pili. Now this conjugation can also take place with another type of bacterial cells which are known as HFR. So this is an HFR. HFR means high frequency recombination. So this is a high frequency recombination, and here we have F minus cell. F minus means there is no additional plasmid. This is F minus. So HFR, that means this cell will, okay, so here this cell will have a conjugation tube formed with F minus. So this is F minus, a conjugation tube will be formed. So this is the conjugation tube formed by the pili, and this HFR, a part of this HFR will enter in F minus cell. So this is a homologous region. It will pair up with the original bacterial cell, and this is the part of HFR. So this HFR is now attached to the original DNA of F minus cell. Okay, so this is a kind of conjugation. So new recombinants are formed through conjugation. Now next part of this chapter is related to nutrition and bacteria. So bacteria derive its nutrition by two ways. So bacteria are those which can form their food on their own. So those which have ability to form food on their own are known as autotrophic bacteria, and those which are dependent on food others for food requirement, they are heterotrophic. Autotrophic bacteria are of two types: photoautotrophic, which can synthesize food on their own with the help of sunlight, and chemosynthetic bacteria, which can synthesize food on their own by utilizing chemicals. Okay, so first type is photosynthetic bacteria. Photosynthetic bacteria, they are the bacteria which can use CO2 as a source of carbon. They do not use water as source of electron. So in such bacteria, oxygen is not evolved. So source of electron is sulfur compounds. Now let us see photosynthetic bacteria. They are of three types. So first is purple sulfur. So purple, wherever we have bacterial color or pigment as purple, that means there is bacteriochlorophyll present in it. If the bacteria is green, that means bacteriowarden is present in that bacteria. So since it is purple bacteria, so purple color is only because of bacteriochlorophyll. And in purple, sulfur, as the name suggests, purple color due to bacteriochlorophyll, and sulfur because of sulfur compounds. They are the main source of electrons. So for example, chromacium and thiospirillum. The next is green sulfur bacteria. Green sulfur bacteria, they are green. Green means they don't have bacteriochlorophyll. In fact, they have bacteriowarden or chlorobium chlorophyll as their main source of pigment. Here the sulfur compounds are again the source of electron. For example, chlorobium is the green sulfur bacteria. The next is purple non-sulfur bacteria. Purple means again the pigment is bacteriochlorophyll, and non-sulfur means here there is no sulfur requirement, but organic compounds like malic acids are formed. For example, rhodospirillum. So this is all about photosynthetic bacteria. Now there is another type of bacteria which can form food on their own. They are known as chemosynthetic bacteria. So chemosynthetic bacteria are those which are colorless, photosynthetic, aerobic and autotrophic. That means they don't have any color. They are neither green nor purple, like the case of phototrophic. They are completely colorless. They don't have any photosynthetic pigment. They are aerobic. Aerobic means they utilize oxygen for their metabolic purpose. They are autotrophic, means they can synthesize food on their own. Now these chemosynthetic bacteria obtain energy for food formation by the oxidation of inorganic substrates. So inorganic substrates are utilized. So this process of synthesis of organic food by inorganic substance is known as chemosynthesis. So let us see. So here we have the first reaction. H2, 2H2 plus O2 gives 2H2O. So that means hydrogen is playing an important role, and such bacteria are known as hydrogen bacteria. For example, hydrogenomonas. Let us see the second type. Second type, as the reaction or energy producing oxidation reaction says, it is H2S which form S, that means sulfur, then sulfur oxide is formed, sulfur oxide forms further sulfur compound, oxide compound. These are colorless sulfur bacteria, example Thiobacillus. The next one is iron. So here we find there are certain bacteria which convert Fe2 plus into Fe3 plus. That means they are iron bacteria, and for example ferrobacillus. Same way we have another, NH3 gives NO2 negative, gives NO3 negative. So ammonia gets converted into nitrite and nitrite gets converted into nitrate. For example, Nitrobacter and Nitrosomonas. So all these bacteria are deriving their energy from inorganic substrate. It could be hydrogen, hydrogen sulfide, iron or nitrogen based compounds. Third category. So apart from autotrophic, as we have seen, autotrophic are of two types: photoautotrophic, chemoautotrophic. Heterotrophic bacteria are those which cannot synthesize food on their own. So either they are dependent on some other living organisms. So for example, symbiotic bacteria. So if we consider symbiotic bacteria, The example is Rhizobium leguminosarum. So it forms symbiotic association with other organisms. For example, Rhizobium leguminosarum is found in root nodule of nitrogenous plant. So it is deriving its food from the nitrogenous plant. Second category is saprophytic bacteria. So they grow on dead decaying organic matter. For example, ammonifying bacteria like Bacillus mycoides and Bacillus ramosus. The next type is parasitic. Parasitic are those which cause diseases. So there are number of diseases caused by bacteria, and these is important. So first category is tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis. It's TB, it affects lungs. Leprosy is caused by Mycobacterium leprae. So in this the skin becomes deformed and a person may have some disfiguration in the body parts. Then we have typhoid. Typhoid is caused by Salmonella typhi. Okay. Then we have chlorella. Chlorella is caused by Vibrio cholerae. It's a waterborne disease. Then we have diphtheria. Diphtheria is caused by Corynebacterium diphtheriae. I repeat, diphtheria is caused by Corynebacterium diphtheriae. So in diphtheria, there is throat infection, swelling in trachea take place. Then we have STD, a disease, sexually transmitted disease. This is syphilis. Syphilis is caused by Treponema pallidum. Next is tetanus. Tetanus is a disease where there is difficulty of opening jaws. This is caused by Clostridium tetani. So this is Clostridium tetani. Then we have bacterial dysentery caused by Shigella dysentery. Next is gonorrhea. Gonorrhea is again a sexually transmitted disease. This is caused by Neisseria gonorrhoeae. Then we have number of disease caused by these bacteria in animals. For example, anthrax is caused by Bacillus anthracis. Pneumonia is caused by Diplococcus pneumoniae. Black leg of cattle is caused by Clostridium chauvini. So these are different diseases. Then we do have number of diseases caused by these bacteria in plant. For example, crown gall disease is caused by Agrobacterium tumefaciens. Pear blight disease it is caused by Pseudomonas amylovorus. Ring rot of potato is caused by Corynebacterium sependonicum. Citrus canker is caused by Xanthomonas citrae. Black rot of cabbage is caused by Xanthomonas campestris. So all these are different diseases, and disease causing bacteria are actually parasitic bacteria. Now let us study the economic importance of bacteria. Bacteria are very important in the economic activities, and we all drink tea. So have you ever wondered the curing of tea leaves is actually done by fermentative action of Mycococcus candescens. So this is the bacteria, Mycococcus candescens, and this is the curing. Curing means we are making the leaves dry. The leaves of tea are being made dried, and this process is accelerated by Mycococcus candidans. The next is curing of tobacco. Curing of tobacco is done by B. megatherium. So B. megatherium helps in curing of tobacco. The next is vinegar formation. So in vinegar formation, we again use a bacteria known as Acetobacter aceti. Now for making cheese, curd, yogurt, we require bacteria. For example, Lactobacillus bulgaricus, and we also have Streptococcus lactis. These are all bacteria found in cheese. Now there are number of bacteria which help in nitrogen fixation. So nitrogen fixation is really important. So nitrogen fixation means that in nature we have N2. nitrogen in environment, but that is not utilized by living organism. It need to be fixed. That means it need to be converted into a usable form. So certain plants, especially the legume plants, they have in their root nodule rhizobium bacteria, and this rhizobium bacteria converts N2, that is atmospheric nitrogen, into ammonia. So biological nitrogen fixation was discovered by Vinogradesky. And Frankia bacteria. There are a number of bacteria. Frankia bacteria form root nodule in leguminous plant like the plant Casuarina, myrica. Then we have Azotobacter paspili. It fixes nitrogen symbiotically in the tree, that is Paspalum notatum. Klebsiella forms the root nodule in Pavetta psychotria. So these are different kinds of nitrogen fixing bacteria. Then you might have observed that retting of fibers, like here in this case jute fiber. So jute fiber is made by the retting process, and this is done by Clostridium butyricum. Now these bacteria also play very important role in genetic engineering. So genetic engineering require different recombinations of DNA, and there are particularly two bacteria which play very important role in genetic engineering. So the first one is E. coli and the other one is Agrobacterium tumefaciens. So these bacteria are excessively used in genetic engineering. Then we have single cell protein, which are source of nutrition also, and these single cell protein include yeast, chlorella and spirulina. So that means bacteria have large number of economic advantage. Now let us see some groups of bacteria. So the first group is Myxobacteria. So Myxobacteria is actually a group of non-motile rod-shaped bacteria. So as you can see in this picture, these are rod-shaped, small round rod-shaped, and they cannot move. Another thing is that they have rigid cell wall. They are acid-fast bacteria. So acid-fast bacteria means those which cannot be stained easily, and once they are stained, they cannot be destained easily. So we need special dyes for staining such bacteria. Now cell wall of these bacteria contain mycolic acid. Now at maturity they give rise to fruiting bodies. This is a kind of vegetative reproduction. So example include Mycobacterium tuberculosis and Mycobacterium leprae. Second, in the group of bacteria we have spirochetes. Spirochetes are those which are very spiral in shape. So as you can see this particular diagram, in this particular diagram, this bacteria is spiral shape. Okay, it's wavy and spiral. So these are actually helical wavy bacteria. They are non-motile, they cannot move, and neither they produce a spore. They do not have any kind of rigid cell wall. Example, Treponema pallidum and Leptospira. Treponema pallidum, which also causes syphilis, is a kind of spirochete bacteria, and Leptospira. Leptospira is also spiral in shape. Second, another type of bacteria are actinomycetes. Now these actinomycetes are again very interesting. So actinomycetes include group of filamentous, mycelial and branched bacteria. So as you can see in the picture, these bacteria are filamentous bacteria and they are branched. So this is the branching point as you can see here. Okay, and then they are also gram-positive bacteria. The reproduction is by conidia. The small bud-like structures are formed for reproduction. And they are connecting link between bacteria and fungi. So some of the features are similar to bacteria and other features are very similar to fungi. Like conidia formation is a feature which is similar to fungi. Example include Streptomyces and Mycobacterium. The next interesting bacteria which is present on our planet is magnetotactic bacteria. As the name suggests, magnetotactic means something related to magnet. So in these bacteria, it's very interesting phenomena that they can even orient along the line of Earth's magnetic field. Example, Equispirillum magnetotacticum. So there is an internal magnet by which the bacteria can move down in the nutrient-rich sediments at the bottom of pond where they live. So these magnetotactic bacteria, they are actually the bacteria, they have certain kind of protein that orient along the magnetic field of Earth. The next is mycoplasma or pleuropneumonia-like organisms. So these are the smallest known aerobic prokaryotic cells. There is no other organism smaller than them. So these bacteria were discovered by E. Nocard and E.R. Rocks in the pleural fluid of cattle suffering from a disease. So from the lung, you can say this bacteria was obtained and we call it as PPLO. That means pleuropneumonia-like organism. Novak was the scientist who gave this term mycoplasma. So these mycoplasmas are actually gram-negative. They are unicellular prokaryotes and they are non-motile. They are facultative anaerobes. So facultative anaerobes means sometimes anaerobe. That means they are mostly aerobic, but they can also survive in anaerobic conditions. So they can survive in conditions without oxygen, but mostly they are able to survive in aerobic conditions. Now they are very small, very small, and they are so small that they can even pass through bacterial filter, and they are therefore known as jokers of the microbial world. Now these bacteria have a structure which is very fascinating. First thing is that they don't have cell wall. So there is no cell wall. So if there is no cell wall, then two things will happen. Firstly, bacteriophage are those viruses which attack on cell wall. But if this mycoplasma do not have cell wall, then you can expect that there will be no effect of bacteriophage. And also there will be no effect of penicillin. So penicillin is a type of antibiotic which attack on cell wall. But since there is no cell wall, so penicillin will have no effect on it. Another thing is that bacteria will be susceptible to tetracycline. Tetracycline and some other kind of antibiotics do not act on cell wall, but they act on metabolic pathway. So if a particular antibiotic attack metabolic pathway, then that means in that case, in the presence of such antibiotic, yes, our bacteria, mycoplasma will not be able to survive. They are highly pleuromorphic. Pleuromorphic means that they can easily change their shape. Both DNA and RNA are present in them. Ribosomes are of 72S type. PPLO can be stained by aniline dye and Dine stain. So these are the dyes which are used. They are free-living, parasitic and saprophytes. They can be easily cultured on artificial medium, and they do not absorb water and burst out. That means they are resistant to osmotic lysis. Now another interesting thing that you can see here as one thing is that they do not have cell wall. Another thing is that they have 3 layers cell membrane. Cell membrane has 3 layers in it. Okay, so this is the cell membrane and it has 3 layers. Okay, so cell membrane has 3 layers. Apart from this, cell membrane do not have mesosomes. So as we have seen previously, mesosomes are enfolding in cell membrane, and here these enfoldings are completely absent. Now the electron transport system, the system which helps in respiration, it is devoid of quinones and cytochrome. G plus C, that is guanine and cytosine of DNA, is just 23 to 40%. So DNA is present, but the amount of guanine and cytosine is completely less. UGA, uracil, guanine, and adenine codon read as tryptophan signal. Now, mycoplasmas divide into very minute bodies, and these minute bodies are known as elementary bodies or minimal reproductive units. So, they can divide into minute bodies. So, this is about mycoplasma. And so, we end this chapter and we will take up the next part of this chapter, that is Protista, in the next video.